Hi folks, Jennifer Nelson here, founder of Scout Real Estate. Glad you're listening in. I created Pocket Hours podcast to elevate our game and help us all learn from the best. I have interviewed some of the top producers in our industry about best practices, among many other things. We also tackle industry issues and changes with great conversation from many of our leaders. And the best part is you get clock hours just for listening in. After you have listened to 3 episodes, just email info@scoutrealestate.com to answer a few easy questions for the interview, and you will receive your certificate. Meanwhile, enjoy listening and learning, and go out there and be the agent you would hire. I had an amazing experience interviewing our friend and colleague, Therese Bianchi, today on Pocket Hours. For those of you that know her, what a powerhouse. And what you'll find in this interview is that she is a powerhouse because of her vulnerability. We don't see that very often. We don't get to say that very often, but this is certainly a woman who has gone through a lot. And with her grit, her determination, and hard work, she has shown up for herself, first of all, to be able to offer her best version of herself to those that need her. And her vulnerability in sharing her story about her alcoholism, her getting sober, and how that completely changed her life is what I have so appreciated about this talk that we just had. So I can't wait for you to listen in and get a really insider look at this high producer and how getting rid of a substance that she leaned on so heavily that she thought she needed has completely changed her life and had her business explode. And as I said at the end of this talk, Teresa is the kind of person who, if this resonates at all with you and you want to go for a walk with her, get coffee, she is a person who will give up her time to talk with anyone who feels like they might be in a similar spot that she was in. So please take her up on that. And if that's not you, I still know that you're going to be inspired by what Teresa has to say. So here we go. I have the privilege today, this morning, of interviewing a good friend of mine and someone who has been in the business a long time and who does a really amazing job of this real estate gig that we do. So I'm super excited to have Therese Bianchi on the show. Yay! Glad you're here.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Jennifer.
Of course, of course. I joked with my brokers at Scout yesterday that I was interviewing you, and they were like, oh, we know who that is. And then they said, she's the one who does a whole bunch of business and who has more open house signs than anyone we know. I said, you got it. That is her. That's the one.
That's true.
That's the one. Teresa, thank you for being here. So first question, how long have you been doing real estate?
Well, it'll be 17 years this coming March.
Oh my gosh, that's so cool. Yeah. And then what did you do prior to real estate?
I was a personal trainer and a fitness instructor.
Okay.
Yeah, for about 10 years or so.
Okay, got it. And tell me, how did you go from fitness training to real estate? What was the jump?
Well, I was training someone and they just said that, you know, everybody here and everybody seems to like you. And what if each one of these people brought you a client? You'd be a very good real estate agent. Huh. And I was like going through a time in my life where I kind of needed to come up with a way to make more money because I was going through a divorce or beginning stages of that. And when I found out how much you could make and that you didn't need a college education to do this, I was all in. I was like, let's go find out if this is a good fit. And sure enough, it was a great fit. And unfortunately, it was 2007 and it was a tough start, but I stuck with it.
Yeah, no kidding. Well, and honestly, at this point, there's something to be said. There's a little bit of a medal that we all wear for those of us who went through that period and are still standing.
God.
That we need to kind of look at each other and say, I see you. Yep, we did it. We're here.
Yeah.
So good for you. So there's people on this show that are listening that just got licensed, all the way up to people that have been in it far longer than both you and I combined. So we've got a great continuum of listeners, but let's talk first to those people that are brand new in the industry. Go back with us 17 years and you took the plunge, the jump, and you're in real estate. What do you think you're shaking your head because you're like, oh, I remember those days. What do you think was a couple things that you did that really helped you get where you are now?
Just the mindset of I can do this. and then became it, I'm going to do this. I've got this. Just don't don't listen to the news and don't listen to other people, but just, you know, as time went on, I learned the ninja process and all that. And that helped. But in the very, very beginning, just, I'm going to do this.
Hmm.
Nice.
Nice.
I am not going to go. And I didn't have a lot of options in the sense of I didn't have that college education, and there wasn't, I had been an at-home mom, and then I got into personal training, and I have 4 children, by the way.
Hmm.
And so this was kind of like my way to my financial freedom. And I wasn't going to give up at all. That was it.
Love that.
So
I
I
love
was
that.
just determination. Stick with it. Don't
Stick with
quit.
it. I love it. We're going to get back to mindset in a second, but I love that you just said that you've got 4 kids, and I meant to ask you as we started, tell us a little bit about family for you. What does that look like?
Yeah, I've got 4 children. I have 37-year-old, my son Nick, and he has a child. So I'm a grandmother now. He and his wife Ronnie, who decided to become a real estate agent after we did a transaction together. She said, "This was so much fun. I want to do this." So okay. So then I have a daughter who's expecting, Katie, and she is 33. She'll be 34 coming up here in March. And then I've got a son, David, who's married to Marta, in
Yes.
Barcelona. David is 27, and then Joseph is 23 and in the Air Force. And
Wow.
I got
Awesome.
remarried in 2019, and yeah, life is great. Life is going
Awesome.
great.
That's so
Yeah,
great. That is so cool. And I know Ronnie because we worked together for a stint
yeah,
there a couple years back. Fabulous. I
that's
love that
right. That's
it's
right.
in the family. It's in the family. That's great.
Yeah,
So let's go back just for a minute. You talked about mindset, and I want to say to the listeners, if you paid attention to pocket hours at all since we've been doing this, Teresa is not the first person that's a high producer that has talked about mindset. So one of the reasons we're doing pocket hours, one of the reasons I'm doing it is because I want you to start to pick up on trends of what high producers are saying and repeating over and over again about best practices. And this is one that has come up repeatedly. So your belief, and almost I want to say, Teresa, that you sort of said, I don't have any other options. I have to make more money. I've got 4 kids. I'm going through a divorce. I have to make this work.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, right. And
yeah,
so I wonder sometimes for newbies that say, "Well, I better have a backup plan just in case." You're like, "But the backup plan might actually be the crutch that's keeping you
yeah.
from success." Yeah?
At some point, you absolutely have to take the dive. If
Yeah.
you can't have your feet in 2 different baskets. You've got to
Yeah.
just do it because number one, people don't want to work with a part-time real estate agent.
Yeah, true. True.
Nobody wants to do that. They want to work. This is their biggest financial decision or, assets. They don't want to work with somebody that's a part-time whatever. So that doesn't work. You've got to go for it. And I know it's really difficult for that. I mean, for a while, I had to be a personal trainer. I actually worked at the Carmelia's one day a week, in the
Hmm.
dress shop, just whatever I could to piece it together. Because in 2007, the checks were not rolling in. It took me over a year to make that for sale. Actually, it felt like I was pretending to be a real estate agent because I was watching everybody else do it. I felt like a little girl on the outside of the circle at the playground. But I knew if you throw enough mud on the wall, eventually something's going to stick. And I
Yeah.
just had to cut these other jobs out and just focus 100% on real
Yeah.
estate. At that time, I was living in Highland Park, and I didn't see other people marketing up there like they do now. I mean, it's kind of taken off now, but I decided I live here. If I could just focus on this neighborhood and do a ton of open houses here, and do open houses in the sense that I could do them every day. And just if I'm doing note cards or if I'm reading, my signs are out there. I can make a name for myself just in this area and just work on this. And it worked. And I figured, if I could sell back then a house up there, 300,000, you could get a pretty nice house. And it seemed like everybody was fighting for the properties in the main part of West Seattle. But I thought if I could do 3 of these homes or 4 of these homes, as much as one of those homes, but that's more business. That's 4 more people that I'm helping. I just set out with, I'm going to do this. What I've learned, whatever it is, not just with real estate, if you really believe it, it's going to happen. I mean,
Sky's the limit for
it
that.
is going to happen. And I could give you other examples in my life. writing that letter that Ninja teaches you once a year has been pretty powerful too, because a lot of that stuff, when you go back and read it, it happens. I don't know
Absolutely.
how it works. Don't care how it works, but it
But it
works.
works. Exactly.
Yeah.
And for listeners that are unfamiliar, Teresa keeps mentioning, and we've actually mentioned this many times on the podcast, but ninja selling is a philosophy that comes out of Fort Collins, Colorado. They are the most successful real estate company in the nation. And so, of course, we want to pay attention to why. And they've come up with an entire philosophy. You can read books, you can listen to podcasts. Highly recommend you go to their installation and learn the practices that ninja real estate agents employ to help them be successful. And for sure, one of the biggest things they talk about in that installation is mindset,
Yeah.
and that putting down your intentions about your why are what leads you to go find success. It's not actually money driven at all, believe it or not. It's all
Right.
about your why.
And it's not
So
even about the how, it's the why.
it's the why. Yeah.
Yeah.
How it's going to happen, we'll see,
Yeah.
but we know why we want this money, right? Yeah, that's great. Okay, so then you waited a year, you watched, you got strategic about, hey, there's hardly any real estate agents over here. This is where I live. I'm going to go for it over here.
Yeah.
You came up with a plan to buy more open house signs than anyone's ever purchased ever in the history of real estate,
Well,
which I love. I
that
love
was
that.
that was kind of by default. I actually,
Okay.
people were stealing my signs.
Oh my gosh.
And
Okay.
so then I would go replace them. And then a couple of times we would find these signs in the bushes down by Tilt Ridge. So I don't know.
Weird.
I don't know who's doing it, but
Okay.
and so I ended up with a whole bunch of signs,
Okay.
and even more than I could have imagined.
All right.
And then it's like it works. So I'm just going to keep. And then when I went to Windermere, just replace them all. It just works.
I love it. I love it. That's so funny. I love that when, this is when an artist kind of messes up on something they're painting and then realizes that the mess up is actually what's going to contribute to their success. So that's
Yeah.
perfect. So, okay. So you're a couple years in, let's say you've had, under your belt now, however many transactions. Oh, so you're shifting from sort of a survival, oh my gosh, I believe I can make it, but I'm still kind of worried, but okay, into this might work. What do you think sort of helped you propel you from that into where you are now, which is selling gobs of homes a year? You have more business than you know what to do with, but you had to get there by doing some good practices before that. What do you think contributed to that?
Continuing the mindset. But also, one big thing that I did
Yeah.
was I made a very difficult decision, but I had no choice. I quit drinking. I had a problem. And I didn't know that that was going to impact my business the way it did. In fact, at the time, I thought that might impact it negatively, because I felt that I was so comfortable when I was cutting the edge. And I knew that I had to quit. I had a few people that were very important to me that I listened to make comments and talk to me. And I didn't want to continue to hurt people or hurt myself. I didn't realize how much better I could be until I quit. And I actually admitted myself to Shiseido because
Okay.
I tried to do it myself and I wasn't able to. So it was really, 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 really hard. It was really hard to quit because it felt like I was giving up a best friend in a sense, because alcohol is with you when you're happy, when you're celebrating, when you're socializing. It's with you in the positive moments, but it's also there when you're sad, when you're lonely, when you're depressed, when you're feeling anxious, when you're feeling uncertain. It's like, how many times I can speak for myself. I can't speak for other people, but I need this to cut the edge. I need this to calm down. I need this to just kind of like, for example, I got the biggest check that I had ever received in real estate, like the first big check. And it's like everything I had been working for, it's working. I had my split finally, because that took a while to get, you know what I'm talking about. It takes it doesn't happen in the first year, at least it didn't for me. And not back then. And I had so much anxiety from seeing the numbers, just knowing I had worked so hard. It was kind of like this feeling of, now what, and drove home to my house, and I probably drank a bottle of wine and just calmed myself down, because there was so much anxiety for some weird reason.
Yeah.
And just, I was really using it quite a bit to manage anxiety, self-medicate. And then, I was at times getting sick. My boyfriend at the time, which is now my husband, this was 9 years ago, so 2014. And I'm just going to be really frank.
Yeah.
I drank so much that I was very sick, throwing up. And he just said, you are the most beautiful person that I've ever met inside and out. And I don't know if I can continue down this path with you because it's killing me to watch you do this to yourself. You become a different person. And that just was really like, oh my gosh, I'm going to ruin this. And, I got to do something different. And then he challenged me to count. He says, I don't think you know how much you drink. So why don't you count? Don't change anything, but just count. And then call one of those places and ask them because I'm not a professional. So I did that and I was way over I was very honest and I was way over where I should have been. And then when I called Schick, I called Milam first and they said, oh, you can't have a laptop there. You have to come in for 30 days. I don't know, maybe they have a different program now, but it sounded like that wasn't something I could do at that point. That would cause more stress for me because I needed to have my laptop. I needed to still communicate and work. And Schick was like, yeah, just come in here and it'll take 10 days and bring your laptop and you could still have visitors. And I'm like, well, what are you guys doing? They're like, well, we're going to make you throw up. And I go, and they said, well, you're doing that anyways, right? And I said, yeah. And they said, well, in 10 days, chances are you'll be able to break free. And it worked for me. I had to go back after 60 days or 30 days, 60 days and 90 days and just do an overnight there in order to get through the whole entire program. But it worked. And it was like, I didn't know who I was in a sense, but as time went on, I could concentrate better. I didn't have to run to that to manage my stress. I mean, this job, it can be so brutally stressful.
It's true.
And so many times, and we have no schedule really, unless we make ourselves have the schedule. And if you want to, you can change that schedule.
Yeah.
But, there'd be times where something wouldn't go right. And I'd go have a couple shots or, open a Corona at 11 o'clock just to kind of, all right, calm myself down or whatever. And, I wasn't going to do that anymore. So I had to find different ways and also different systems for myself to manage my stress. Like instead of, when everything's coming at me really fast, that's when I would get the urge. And so now I just say, okay, what is the most important thing that you have to do right now? You don't have to do everything right this very second. And so I just have found different ways. And I've also found over the last 9 years a confidence that I never knew was possible. And I think it's because without this crutch, I can just really be myself. And I like who I am. I'm happy.
That's so cool.
And I love how I never have to get sick in the morning like I was and just never have to feel the highs and lows of alcohol. And, looking back, it's almost like people that are doing this and absolutely no judgment at all to people because I was there, but you don't know how it's stepping on your head pretty much and keeping you down. You don't know until you get to the other side. And then it's like, wow, And
That's so cool.
People tell me I'm a way different person, more settled.
Pocket Hours is brought to you by Scout Real Estate. Hi, I'm Jennifer Nelson, owner at Scout Real Estate. I started this firm with the vision of doing things differently, with our focus on legendary service for our clients and creating a community of producing agents to spur each other to do higher quality work. If you are interested in learning more about how a small group of like-minded brokers have come together to have some fun while doing a lot of business, reach out to me, 206-227-7966, or email jennifer@scoutrealestate.com. I promise you this, fun is a high priority for me, but so is winning. So if you appreciate those two things, you might be interested in Scout. Looking forward to hearing from you. Well, I have to say, for the listeners out there, when I approached Teresa, I said, hey, I want to interview you on the podcast because you're a high producer and I want to hear from you. But I want to ask you if you would be willing to talk about this big life change for yourself. And just for the listeners to know, not only did she very, very excitedly say, of course, I'd be happy to. But I just want to recognize the vulnerability of this interview and your ability to come out and say to everyone, hey, here's where it wasn't working for me and where I knew I needed help and I went and got it. And that takes courage and bravery. And I just applaud you for that. So thank you for your
It,
vulnerability.
you're very welcome. And it was very terrifying.
I believe that.
I remember a few days in particular, one being at Chick where it's like maybe by day 4 and just crying and crying and being like, what have I done to myself? Because
Hmm.
I did this.
Yeah.
Nobody did
Right.
this. I did this.
Right. 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 It's interesting that you spoke about alcohol became like a best friend to you. And I thought that was really well said, that it's something that you could rely on and something that was there with you because you chose it. But then you're recognizing how literally toxic that best friend was, and stepping on your head and leaving you sick, and your reliance upon it to calm down, right? All of a sudden, instead of you having a drink, it became master of you. And, we're talking about alcohol today, but this could be literally anything. As you do some introspection, realtors that are listening, what is it that you are master of and what is mastering you? And trying to figure that out so that you aren't mastered by anything, right? That you aren't having something else control you in that way. You also talked about some new systems. So, as you said, which I loved, real estate is there's no schedule. We are entrepreneurs. We get to make our business or break it, and it all falls on us. And some days that makes us not want to get out of bed because we're like, really? I don't know how to make anything good happen today. And other days we're running with hair on fire because we've got 5 clients and this to do and this to do and this to do. So your system you spoke of was saying, okay, here's the 20,000 things I'm supposed to do today, right? What do I have to do? And what do I have to do first? And that's all I'm going to tackle right now.
Yep.
Did that sort of change the anxiety of it? You
Yes.
felt more in control? Okay.
Yes. Yes. I
Yeah.
felt like I could do it,
Okay.
like without having to do everything. I could just focus on the one thing, get that
There you
done,
go.
then focus on the other thing, get that done.
Yeah.
What is needed for today.
That's great. That's
Yeah.
so good. And then that you spoke to also about the new confidence that came of that, both from I don't have to rely on drinking to sort of set me up or cool me down or whatever it was, all the things, right? I can do that all by myself. I don't need that anymore. And I love that your now husband said you're a different person when you are on this substance, this mood altering thing that, and I don't like it, and it's going to be the end of us. So make a choice, right?
The way he said it wasn't like you have to make a choice. He was more like, I don't know if I can do this, is what he
Got it.
said. It wasn't like he was
Yeah.
choose that or me. It was more
Yeah.
like, and then it made me think like, you know,
Right, right. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. It's
He was
interesting.
perfect the way he said it,
Sounds
really.
like it. Sounds like
Yeah.
he did it perfectly, like you said. Yeah. And it wasn't coming down on you. It was more like, gosh, I just don't know if I can survive
Yeah.
here with this. That's
Hmm.
great. One of my best friends, she said that she had a friend who was drinking heavily, and she said to the other partner who was, with the person who was drinking, it's too bad that your spouse has a mistress. And the person said, what do you mean? That they're not cheating on me. And she was like, oh, aren't they? And she said, well, no, they're not having an affair. There's no other person in the mix. And she said, but alcohol is very similar to that, in that you're looking to something else and some other substance to fill up parts of you that could made this relationship better. And so she said, why, how is it different? And they were like, oh my gosh, I never thought about it that way, right? Like there's this thing out here that I keep choosing to help me, quote unquote, but that truly is putting it in the way of my primary relationship with you, right? So that's interesting. Okay, so 9 years ago, how long? Let's see, you were in real estate 17 years, so 9 years ago. So you were in real estate already, what, 8 years or something when you were drinking, and then you went into Chick-fil-A. You took your laptop. I love it. You're like, I'm still working. Got that,
I
and you
tell people
come
I'm on
out.
vacation.
Oh, I like that. Yeah. What a vacation. What a terrible vacation, but a good one, right? Yeah. At the end of it. And then you come out, and how long did it take, you think, for you to say, wow, I've already noticed a change in how I do real estate after you left there?
Well, I felt like there was actually a little bit of a dip
Okay.
before it started to kind of
Yeah.
come up. So
Okay.
I, and I do remember saying to one of my friends who I was in school chick with, and unfortunately she didn't make it. She relapsed a couple times and actually is no longer with us. She lived in Arizona. We met there, but we would touch bases, and the people that you meet from there become kind of your support group.
I bet. Yeah.
Anyhow, I remember telling her that I'm really scared that I'm not going to be able to talk to people. And like, I thought I had a finesse almost. Like we all think, the way, I don't know. Anyways, it's like when I meet people, I'm not as confident. I feel like I'm quieter, I'm more reserved. I don't know if I'm going to be good at this anymore. I was dealing with anxiety too. I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
without the alcohol,
Yep.
for me, I kind of was afraid of driving even. Like that first few months, I went and saw a therapist that I was like, that's not working. I need to find somebody who can help me with my anxiety. I went and found somebody that could help with anxiety. Like they
Okay.
don't care about your issues. They just talk about anxiety. So that was
Okay.
good. But
Yeah.
within the year, I realized this is way better. I'm doing things better. I'm more organized. I show up and I haven't had anything to drink, so I show up in the evening if my clients call me, if I'm talking to another agent that I can tell that
Yep.
they're giving me information they wouldn't give me at 10 o'clock in the morning. So that kind of worked to my advantage a couple times. But
I love it.
but yeah, within a year, I could see that I was on the right path, and it wasn't just with real estate, but it was. I mean, my real estate really took off after that. It really did within a couple of years after that, and it's continued every year. Just continues to get better. It seems like with people, just with everything, my health, um, just just everything for me got better without it.
Mm, that's so great. I ran into you. We live close by each other relatively. And I'm down at Lincoln Park and I run into you and your brother who lives across the
Yep.
street from me. And I say good morning. And you said, oh, we just went for our walk and my walk. And I said, oh, cool. Me too. Where'd you go? And you said, oh, well, we started at 5:30 this morning or whatever it was. So tell me a little bit about that thing that you started doing.
After I quit drinking, I actually did put on weight. That was kind
Yeah.
of the unfortunate part is that you crave sugar, and the sugar has to come from somewhere. And I kind of had an attitude of, you know what, I'm not doing the alcohol, so I deserve this in a sense. I deserve to have something that I like. But
Yeah.
as the years have gone on, it hasn't worked to my advantage. And that was one commitment I made to myself last year, was to lose some of this weight, and I did. I have now. I'm feeling really good. But David and I decided to be kind of like partners in supporting each other, and we would have so much fun. We'd leave at 5:30 or sometimes even earlier, and just, I mean, the most we ever walked was 18 miles. We would just choose these routes all over West Seattle. We saw parts of West Seattle that we hadn't seen. Like I had never walked Longfellow Creek.
Mm.
Yeah, we would just go and just visit and see people along the way. And it became just so much fun. We've kind of tapered off because my brother has a knee issue, but we'll be back. We'll be back at it as soon as he gets that handled. But that was really good. I mean, and
Yeah.
definitely exercising is such a great stress reliever. You don't have to be out there running.
No.
Just little by little each day, walking
Move
was
your
perfect.
move your body. I love
I
it.
moved.
And for those of you listening that just blacked out a little bit, she did mean 5:30 in the morning. AM. That was an AM thing. I'm going to keep pointing out these trends, but there isn't a high producer that we've had on the show that isn't an early riser.
Yeah.
Period. And that's true, folks. If you go to CEOs all over the world, if you go, you're going to find out that people that run their own business and do it successfully realize that those morning hours are incredibly precious before the rest of the world wakes up and they're on call, right?
I also think that, at least for me, I'm really excited to get up and start my day. I
Yeah.
have something exciting. I feel like, and I'm not just making this up. I'm really literally excited to get up and see what the day's going to bring me. I'm
Yeah.
thankful and grateful for every
Yeah.
day,
Yeah.
and who I'm going to meet today. Who
Uh-huh.
am I going to be able to help? Who am I going to, whatever, or what am I doing? I didn't feel like that before. Before when I was drinking, or just, it's all part of what
Yeah.
I've become, and I'm cool with it. Very cool
That's
with it.
that's so great. So Teresa, if I were to line up, 10 or so of your clients, for your closings in the last short while, what do you think would be a common theme that they might say about why they chose you?
I could go back to my reviews and see what that is. It's funny how people that don't even know each other, the same theme comes out, and it's determination, which I love, energy, hard
Uh,
work, showing
uh,
up. So
nice.
those are all the things
Uh,
that you can't learn. You either got it or you don't.
yeah.
You have to practice that. It's not
Hmm.
book smart. It's, the way you are.
Grit. It's some
And
grit.
yeah, it's great. Yeah. I really am proud of that,
Yeah, for sure.
that I've, just determined.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would guess that you're a referral business for the most part now. People
Yep.
that have used you are coming back. You're probably helping their kids and their, parents and whatever else is happening. So, how has that shifted your business, or has it shifted your business? So, you're a hard worker, you're going to show up, you're excited about your day, but now you're not sort of pounding the pavement necessarily to find who your next client's going to be. They're probably calling you. Have you found a shift in your focus at all in business because of that?
Well, I still do my open houses. So
Okay.
that's meeting new people. That's great. That's always a lot of fun. But I think the shift, it gives me more security in the sense that as long as I'm good to the people and genuinely good to them, because I'm so grateful and happy, they already know, like, and trust me. Instead of working like in the beginning of this career, it's like a rat race. You're just constantly, especially back then, now it's more of a flow. It's more of a flow, and it's smoother.
Yeah.
I have time to take a break, to kind of breathe, reflect, and then there's the time to work hard. And it's going really well. But you know what? I designed it
That's it.
in the sense that by giving up, for me, giving up drinking, I was able to get in control of my life.
Hmm. Right.
Does that make any sense?
It makes a lot of sense. And I feel like clapping. I do. I really do. I feel like saying a huge congratulations to you. That's amazing. And it's inspiring. And I'm proud. I don't know how to say this. It sounds weird, but I'm proud of you. Like, I feel proud for you right now that you've been able to say, I'm going to take charge of this. Only I can fix this. And you did. And look where you are. So, congratulations. That's amazing.
And to hear my kids say that they're proud of me,
Ah, yeah. Oh, that's got to mean a
and
lot.
my parents and my husband,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah. 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 Super inspiring. Well, Teresa, I can't tell you how grateful I am for you for showing up like you do in your life and on the show to be so vulnerable and share with us this great news. It's really, truly great news. So thank you for that. And for listeners out there, and I know Teresa will agree with this, if you have more questions about this for her, she is the kind of person that will meet up with you
oh
anytime.
yeah. I've been able to support a few
Mm,
people
mm,
in this process, and
yeah.
I would love to help anybody or answer any questions.
That's awesome. So appreciate that. Take her out to lunch, go for a walk. If you don't want to get up at
Yeah, let's
5:30,
go
I'm
for a
sure.
walk.
Yeah, go for a walk. I'm sure she'll adjust her start time for you if you want to take a walk with her and just chat with her about her journey more
Get some
specifically.
coffee. Yep.
Yeah, there we go. There we go. Well, hey, thank you so much. I so appreciate it. I hope listeners, you've gotten as much out of this as I have, but showing up, having that grit, believing that what you have to offer, people need and want, and that your best self shows up when you're not using any form of drug, whether that's alcohol or otherwise, to pad yourself. You're fine who you are as you are, and that people want to work with you, truly you, in your best sense. So, yay! Thanks for being on the show.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for listening into Pocket Hours. I hope this has been interesting, fun, made you laugh, made you think, spurred you on to do and implement some new things in your business. I appreciate your time and hope this has been a good use of it, period. Now, go be the agent you would hire.